I did a video yesterday about how this movie is a fucking masterpiece, and now a bunch of people want a spoiler, so let's do it. Also, this is not a horror movie, it's a thriller. I highly recommend you guys still watch it. It's on Tubi for free. Ransom is about this guy named Tom Mullen who is the owner of an airline company that is very successful, so he's crazy rich. Tom has a wife named Kate, and they have a 9-year-old son named Sean. The movie opens up with them having this extravagant party celebrating Tom, and the next day the family attends this science fair in the park. It's New York City, so it's super busy, and in the chaos, we see these guys like stalking Sean, and all of a sudden he disappears. So Tom and Kate are frantically looking for him, and eventually they go home, and Tom receives an email, and it is a picture of Sean bound and kidnapped, and it says, "I have your son, and I want $2 million in ransom." And it tells them if you contact the police or the FBI, your son is dead. Tom and Kate decide to contact the FBI very discreetly because they have a history with them. Because we learned that there was some type of scandal with Tom's airline and this guy, Jackie Brown, went to prison for it. The FBI ended up investigating Tom for it. So Lonnie Hawkins leads the team, they set up, Tom gets the money, and they wait for the kidnappers to call. Meanwhile, we see that the kidnappers consist of Maris Connor, who we had seen at the party in the beginning. She was Tom's caterer. We also have these two brothers, Clark and Cub, yes, Cotton Weary and Donnie Wahlberg. Liev Schreiber's his real name. This cast is stacked. Miles, who they brought on as the tech expert who can't be traced. But they're also talking about how there's somebody else who's leading this whole operation, but he's not revealed yet. So Tom tells Hawkins, I think this might be that guy Jackie Brown as revenge for me putting him in prison, pretty much. So Tom proceeds to go see Jackie Brown in prison and ask where his son is. Mind you, the kidnappers had also said, if you go to the media, we will kill your son. So nobody even knows about this other than the FBI agents. And Jackie Brown literally punches Tom in the face and is like, how the fuck am I supposed to do that in here? And also, you belong in here with me, you dirty son of a bitch. Speaking of dirty sons of bitches, throughout the beginning we've been seeing shots of this detective Jimmy Shaker, and it's revealed that he is the mastermind behind this whole kidnapping. So he's a dirty cop and he put this whole thing together and hired everyone. Maris only got involved because she's dating him. So eventually Shaker calls Tom and tells him how and where to deliver the ransom, and he completely disguises his voice with this like automated machine. The FBI is not able to track the calls because the hacker crashes the system. So the FBI wants a body double to deliver the money, but Tom is like, nope, I'm doing this by himself, and they put a wire on him and they send him on his way. But Shaker calls him in the car while he's driving to the location and completely changes the plan. He makes Tom go to this YMCA and jump in a pool so that his wires are destroyed. He makes Tom change the bag that the money's in because the original bag has a tracker on it and Shaker suspects that. So Tom does everything he says, and eventually Shaker gives him the location that he's supposed to go to give one of his guys the money. He tells him, you give me the money, I give you the address that your son is at. Now, we, the audience, know that this trifling motherfucker is lying because it's been discussed among the group that the plan is to kill the kid. They have no intention of giving Sean back. And the only one who does not want to do this and who has been being nice to Sean the whole time is Cub. So Cub and his brother are the ones that are sent to do the pickup, and Cub specifically says, I'm not giving the money to Shaker unless he lets that kid go free. So Tom gets to the location where he is held at gunpoint by Cub. He gives Cub the money and it's like, okay, now give me the address. And Cub has no fucking idea what he's talking about. And all of a sudden, the FBI appear in fucking helicopters. Chase ensues and they ultimately shoot and kill Cub. So Tom goes back home with the money completely defeated, and it's at this point that he realizes they have no intention of keeping Sean alive or giving him back. So Shaker calls again a little bit later and is like, okay, obviously that was botched, let's try this again. So Shaker gives him another location to meet in, but on the way there, Tom completely changes course. Because again, he knows that they are not planning on giving his son back. At this point, we do know that Sean is still alive because he talked to Tom for literally a second on the last phone call. But the next time Shaker calls, Tom says, change of plans, turn on channel 5. And Tom goes on the news with all the ransom money and says, you will not see a cent of this money because instead I am putting a bounty on your head and offering this money as a reward. Dead or alive, I don't care. Do you know anybody that wouldn't sell you out for $2 million? Doubt it. But if you return my son alive and well, I will call everything off and that will be it. But I will not pay your ransom. So Kate and Officer Hawkins are absolutely fucking horrified. But Tom basically tells Kate these people are not sane, they're not reasonable, they're not going to give us Sean back, but they're smart enough to know that you can't negotiate with a lunatic, so that's exactly what I'm gonna fucking be. The next day, Kate gets a message from Shaker saying, meet me at this location, come alone. If not, your son will die. So Kate goes to this abandoned church where she's attacked by a masked assailant who we know is Shaker. He beats the shit out of her and leaves her with Sean's blood-stained t-shirt. And he's like, if you don't get your husband to pay the ransom, your son will die. So she tells Tom what happened, and now he's even more fucking pissed. He walks out into the street and tells the news, I have doubled the bounty. It is now $4 million. So Shaker calls Tom also fucking pissed, and I think this is one of the most tense moments in cinematic history, because as Tom and Shaker are yelling back and forth and Tom is adamant that he is not lifting this bounty, Shaker pulls out Sean, who's been blindfolded this whole time, by the way. And as Tom yells at him, give me back my son, Shaker says, you want him? And he puts him on speaker, aims the gun at Sean, and pulls the trigger and hangs up. So they, and we the audience for a minute, assume that they just killed Sean. We see that he actually just aimed above him and Sean is still alive. The rest of the group at this point is fucking out. They've had enough. Clark and Miles are like, he hasn't seen any of our faces, like, we're fucking out, dude, this is not worth it. Sean, however, has seen Maris's face, because she went in the room one day and the tape was lifted off his eyes enough to see her and to recognize her as the caterer. So she goes into his room with a gun, and we're unsure what she's gonna do at this point. So Shaker sees Clark and Miles fleeing and is like, I have the perfect plan. And as they're driving away in the van, he shoots them dead, because remember, he's a fucking cop. And he stages the whole thing to look like they were shooting at him. But then suddenly Shaker is shot from behind and he turns and sees that it's Maris. She lifts her gun to shoot him again, but Shaker beats her to it and shoots her dead too. And then Shaker leads the cops that show up to where Sean is, seemingly rescuing him. So Tom and Kate are ecstatic. They reunite with Sean. Tom shakes Shaker's hand, thanks him. So sometime later, we see that Sean is absolutely fucking traumatized. He's terrified of the dark, like this poor kid's fucked up. And Shaker arrives at the penthouse one day because he's like, hey, I need to get out of town. Like, I would like my reward now. And Tom's like, yeah, absolutely, I got you, and starts writing a check for $4 million. However, as he's talking to Shaker, Sean comes around the corner, and he's in the distance enough where only Tom can see him and Shaker cannot. And at the sound of Shaker's voice, there is just absolute fear struck into Sean, because he might have never seen him, but he fucking heard him. Sean gets so scared at the sound of his voice, he wets himself, and Tom sees this and immediately knows that something's wrong. So Tom fake signs the check and is like, okay, you can be on your way now. But Shaker is like, do you think I'm a fucking idiot? And holds Tom at gunpoint. There's a super intense moment where he almost kills Tom, but ultimately Tom persuades him to go to the bank with him, because he's like, either you're gonna be on the run with nothing, or you can be on the run with $4 million. Just come to the bank with me and I'll fucking give it to you. And then I'm a fucking pilot with my own airline. I'll fly you to wherever you want to go. So on the way to the bank, Tom pretends he's calling the airline, but in reality, he calls Hawkins. And he manages to alert him that he is with the kidnapper. So Tom and Shaker make it to the bank, but as they're in there, they get a radio dispatch, because again, he's a cop, and they say, we're looking for Jimmy Shaker, armed and dangerous. He needs to be brought in immediately. So they step outside where the cops surround them, and Jimmy proceeds to open fire and shoot 2 cops. Tom tackles him and is trying to alert the other cops that he's over here, but this fight ensues in the middle of the street. And eventually the struggle ends when Tom straight up throws Shaker through the window of a store. So Shaker's laying there unconscious. We see that his throat is cut and bleeding, and Tom grabs his gun. Now at this point, Hawkins and the NYPD are completely surrounding them in the store. But Shaker manages to get up and Tom holds him at gunpoint. Lonnie begs Tom to lower the gun, which eventually he does. And as he does, Shaker pulls a hidden gun out of his ankle and goes to shoot Tom. But Tom's too quick, bitch, and so is Lonnie. Tom shoots once, Lonnie shoots 3 times, and they manage to kill this motherfucker, finally. Tom drops his gun and puts his hands up, and the police rush to him. Lonnie is like, you will not touch this man, he is with us. And the movie ends with Tom and Kate hugging as the police surround Shaker's dead body.